Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Old School RuneScape Q&A or Modcast. I'm not sure quite how we're branding ourselves yet, but it's one of those two. I'm delighted to be joined by the likes of Mod Oasis.
Hello.
Mod Husky.
Yeah.
And Mod MikeD.
Howdy.
A big thanks to Mod Spear for helping put the stream together, and a big thanks to Mod Acorn for helping prepare the stream. I'll begin with the usual way, announcements, that kind of luck. You'll notice that there's a new mod on the live stream today. That's Mod MikeD. We'll let you get your hands on him soon enough, but we'll finish these announcements first. Jagex has been sold to a new parent company. We won't be answering any questions about this topic, but we have published a statement. Get more information with the command in the chat, ! Jagex News. DMM set to go live on Friday, so that's Friday at 1 PM BST, that's UK time. Google or time zone converter should you need to. We've made some big amendments to the blog with various changes and clarifying different things, like drop rates in the Chambers of Xeric raid being 4 times more likely, and there are some changes to the clue scroll steps too. Get more information with the command ! DMM. We regularly see lots of questions about the ETA for things like Creep Ironman, clans, Soul Wars. We don't have those dates to give you, but every month we share a project progress update with the Gielinor Gazette. So use the ! Gazette, that's 1 Z, 2 T's, command in the chat for more information there. Lastly, last announcement, you'll be pleased to know, today is Level Up for Charity. For every 150 levels gained by you in-game by the players, Jagex will be giving £1 to our charity partners. We also announced today that our NHS Games for Carers initiative, where we'll be collaborating with Yuki and NHS by providing 3 months membership to those in the NHS. You can learn more about the charity initiatives using the command in chat, ! Charity. Right, that's it for the announcements. Getting into questions. Firstly, introductions. I'm going to ask how everybody's doing. I'm going to structure it in a way that I'm going to say your name and then you speak. Mod Oasis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. This is my first remote live stream that I've been a part of, so it's quite exciting. Let's see how it goes and if I say anything dumb.
Okay. Mod Husky, how are you doing today, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Just been a busy day with a lot of meetings, but apart from that, it's been a pretty alright day.
Okay, we'll take it. Alright is good. Mod MikeD, how's it going today, mate?
I'm doing great. Like I said, another day. I'm breathing, with all this COVID-19. I'm super happy to be alive.
That's good. We need that kind of optimism and positivity around the team. Not that anybody asked, but I'm also doing well. Thanks, everybody. Right, let's just work out what we've been working on this past week. Again, I'll start with Mod Oasis. What have you been up to this week?
The first couple of days of this week were our ideation days. So we come up with like new things we like to propose to the team for the game. So I was doing something for Monday and Tuesday, and then past I'd say day and yesterday was working on some new things for PvP, which I'll talk a little bit more about later.
Cool, exciting. Mod Husky, how about you?
Similarly, yeah, I took the ideation days yesterday. Nice little project that should hopefully help a lot of us internally. No spoilers about what that could be yet, but apart from that, this whole sprint for me has been dedicated to balancing the Sepulchre. We're at a point now where a lot of the dev work's done. It's just keep running it, keep tweaking the numbers, see how it feels, and yeah, a lot of that.
Cool.
A lot of spreadsheets too.
Spreadsheets. That doesn't sound fun.
It's fun for me.
Okay, well, it takes all sorts. MikeD, what have you been up to this week?
Well, if spreadsheets don't sound fun, how about decks? We're doing a lot of decks, a lot of pictures, so everybody understands it. It's just, we've been doing a lot of planning, a lot of looking at all these new players coming into the game, and I don't know what I can and can't say, so I'll just say stuff and then I'll get in trouble for it later. But a lot of players coming into the game, so trying to wrap our heads around that and see what they're playing. It's all good stuff.
Cool, okay. Now, we're going to move on to the first batch of questions. And whenever a new person joins the team and comes on stream, we like to learn a bit more about them. So, on MikeD, I have a few questions to ask you. Firstly, could you give us some insight into what your role is and what do you actually do?
Okay, so I'm the product director. I've come on board to help the team plan, like long-term planning. Polling is kind of at the core of what Old School is all about, and sticking to polling and how do we incorporate that into planning a year from now. How do we get feedback and information from the players and design so we can get ahead. We can get the team. Once we have a plan, we can build the team bigger, which is happening right now. Again, I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about and not supposed to talk about, but the team is getting bigger, so more devs, more work, and more stuff. Oh, somebody's coughing. Is that like the don't do that? Not do that.
Keep going. I'm not the one who's going to get
All right. So that's it. I mean, it's trying to assist the team in like long-term planning and making sure that the product stays true to its roots, I guess.
Cool. Okay. So you're product director. That sounds like a pretty important position. So presumably you've got some experience in games. Could you tell us a bit more about the experience you got?
Yeah, sure. I got in the industry, now it's like a long time ago. I worked on a game called Dark Age of Camelot, an MMO, a company called Mythic put out. Warhammer Online, also Mythic. I was a product director of a game called WildStar. It was an MMO not too long ago. Worked on a game called Dreadnought just recently. So I have experience. That's my kid just wandering through the back of this. That's great. So anywho, that's pretty much my experience in the industry. It's a funny story, if you don't mind me telling. When I interviewed with the head of the studio for the position for this gig, I sat down like, okay, I have all this experience in old school MMOs, and and that's old school is pretty much the old school MMO. So it kind of felt good. It was a good match. But it was interesting because when I brought up the idea and I asked, I said, "Oh, what about MTX?" And he said, "Off the table. Will never happen. Don't bring it up again." Like, it was real serious. So I mean, that's not God's honest truth. So it was that surprised me, right? Again, surprised me coming in the kind of day and age where that's a thing that's ever present, that old school is all about a game, providing value to the players, and then, that it's all about the sub and not about MTX. I thought that was pretty sweet.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm sure a lot of people welcome that kind of encouragement, particularly in light of, yesterday's news and the statement we released. You kind of touched upon it already, but the next question is how and why did you find yourself at Jagex and working on Old School? I mean, a lot of the chat already, they're a perceptive bunch, and they picked up that you're American. We don't get many Americans on the team. So what are you doing here? What are you working on Old School for?
Well, I mean, the fact is, I love MMOs. I've been working on online multiplayer games my entire career, and I played Old School a long time ago, and when they said, "Oh, Old School," I was like, "Oh man, I played that." When we were working on, I think when we were working on Warhammer, and I like the idea of a game that has this kind of super dedicated fan base. Plus the team. I mean, I say this in only the kindest way. It's a bunch of hyper dedicated lunatics. Like this team of guys and gals. They love this game more than any devs I've ever seen working on a game, and I think it shows in what they do, and I'm just super happy to get a chance to be on the team.
Oh, that's really kind, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Okay,
I think
the last question.
A lunatic.
That's just on Twitter lately. Right, okay. The last question we ask every new starter: if there's one thing you could change about Old School, what would it be?
Oh man. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Fine. I have a pet peeve, so we'll talk about that. And
Okay.
if there was one thing I could change, would be, and I at least I have a horse in this race, the starter experience. This game is super cool. It's more than just skilling and bossing. There's a ton of good stuff. I read quests on an almost daily basis and laugh out loud, right? It's so good, and it really, I want to make the tutorial and the new player experience super easy so we can get tons more players into the game, and then they can enjoy the same thing that I've been enjoying, over the past 6 months.
Okay. There is a question a bit later in the Q&A as well, asking about what problems you're trying to solve. So we'll come back to that then. We'll grill you a little bit more on that topic shortly.
All right.
Cool. Okay. Moving on for the questions we've got. This one is for you, Oasis. So a wilderness rework has been brought up a few times, including in the March Gazette, like PvP Vision. Is there anything you can share about what you've been doing in regards to that?
Yeah, work's now started on the kind of first steps towards, I'd say, revitalizing PvP. And it kind of starts with the wilderness. So if you kind of cast your memories back to like 2008, I think it was 2008. The Clan Wars was in the wilderness, and for me that was a kind of home place in the wilderness, I guess you could say. So that's kind of the first step we're taking, is to design and implement kind of like a new home for PvP, kind of in the heart of the wilderness. I don't have too much more to say. I don't want to give it all away, but me and Mod West have been working very closely on coming up with a really cool idea, and it's in early stages, but the kind of the stuff he's shown me already looks really good, and I'm excited to see how it comes out and everyone's reactions to it.
Okay. Any ETA on when you can start talking about that with the rest of the players? Showing off some stuff that you're working on? Any concepts?
Yeah, I don't think we're too far away. It should be in the next couple months. You should see some of the work kind of start and flow out, and eventually into the game. So not too long away. Just hold on.
Cool. Okay. Next question. I'm going to aim it at Modern Mike, because a product director seems like that's an important enough position to make big decisions. After the success, a lot of players calling it a success, of the 1v1 tournament, do you think this is something we could offer more regularly to players in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I thought it was super cool. I tuned in the whole weekend, and it was awesome to watch. It was a spectacle. I understand though that in the past we might have put that out a lot, like it was just kind of fatigue over a period of time. So I think it'd be very cool to do something focused, maybe a annual thing or biannual, something that's more of some bigger hoopla around that. But I'm definitely down to do it. I mean, I know everybody on the team was super jazzed about doing it, so I'm in.
Sweet. I know especially you really enjoyed the casting by people like Pervin, so you could not stop talking about him.
It was too much. It was too much. It was just it was really good. I thought to quote him right now, but then I thought, that's probably not good for primetime television.
Hey, go for it. The players know what they're getting into.
No. Please continue. Please. Right. I don't want to be the
We'll move on. Okay, next question is from Mod Husky. Since Bounty Hunter has returned to the game, there are a lot of concerns that getting a looting bag, magic shortbow scroll, and a rune pouch are a lot more difficult now for Ironmen than just buying them off the shop or doing Wilderness Slayer as they were previously. How do you feel about the change, and would you do anything differently to the update?
Yeah, it's definitely been made a lot harder. I think Wildy Slayer was fairly easy to get your rune pouch. I think the rune pouch is definitely the most prominent item on that list that players are asking about. The rune pouch you can still get from Slayer points, so it's still definitely obtainable. So I'm not too concerned with that if that still ends up being far too expensive, because I think the rune pouch was originally added as an alternative way to get it. If that was a thing, we could look to make it cheaper, but I think we kind of just want to see how it plays out for now. The looting bag, I believe there is a change that's getting made potentially with the next game update this week. That's going to essentially, right now it scales from 1 in 30 at a level 100. No, 1 in 30 from a level, I've got the numbers wrong. 1 in 3 from a level 100 combat NPC to 1 in 30 from lower level NPCs. And I think it's scaling from 1 in 3 to 1 in 15. And capping out at level 50 NPC, so it's going to be quite a bit easier to get a looting bag. So that should hopefully ease those concerns. And then the magic short bow, I don't think I've seen any sort of solutions to that right now. It sort of seems like a niche item. It's fairly good pre-blowpipe for training ranged, but it's definitely not a required item, so I'm not too hung up about that being unobtainable. But I mean, unobtainable. You can still kind of do bounty hunter for it. It's just not really. It's not as feasible in an Ironman because you're not building an account for it. So potentially we could look to add that back to like Wildy Slayer drop tables. But I think it's moved around a lot. I'm not sure that would be a good sort of thing to say. Oh, it was here, now I took it away, now it's back here, took it away. If it's in bounty hunter, maybe we should just do the same and make it viable for Slayer points. I don't know. I don't have a good solution. I haven't seen it discussed in the team, but I'd be willing to go to the team and say, like, you know, is this something we need to address? And see if anyone's got any better ideas. Because this is me just thinking on the spot right now.
Okay, well, it seems like, I mean, you've suggested a few potential solutions, or at the very least, players are now aware that we're thinking about it. We're aware of perceived problems with obtaining some items. So whilst we might not have a clear decision now, we're certainly open to changing content accordingly. Would that be a fair way to leave that question?
Yeah, and I think it's very fair to say that, like, if this item was just unobtainable for irons, that wouldn't be the end of the world. But because it was previously obtainable, we probably should do something, right? Because it's unfair that players who got it before an update, you know, can reap the benefits of it.
Cool, okay. I'm going to take some questions from the chat before we move on to more questions. So I'm No Pro 1 asks, well, doesn't ask, more states, Divine Bastion potion better be in this week's update. Is it in this week's update? Anybody know?
It is.
Yep. Cool. Okay.
Same with the
Easy answer.
Same with Divine Battlemage.
Okay, so that's both Bastion and Battlemage this week. Cool. Next question. So from DH Takedown, are we going to need stamina or energy potions for the new agility minigame, presumably the Hallowed Sepulchre?
We're still going through that in design. We currently have like an end of floor, like you can spend time to recharge your energy at like an obelisk at the end. We're playing around with that because a lot of the traps absolutely require staminas, and I'm not sure saying, hey, you need to chug staminas to at least do this. Like, it's impossible walking, right, for some of these. But we're still in early sort of play testing with that, see how that feels. Is it a full recharge? Is it a partial recharge? Sort of that element. But yeah, that's what we've kind of been doing this week. Get the XP rates and then get the feel of it, because yeah, the first iteration you did basically have to chug staminas, and it wasn't necessarily adding to the content to make you do that.
Cool, okay. The next question from Schlepke. I think I pronounced that right, but that's what I'm saying anyway. Schlepke asks, is there an ETA for Sins of the Father release? We answered a similar question last week. We kind of left it as, internally, yeah, we've got a release date in mind. We still need to hit a few more milestones, we'll say, before we have the kind of total confidence in announcing a release date. We learned from stuff like the Nightmare that you need more than a week or two's notice to get yourself ready for it. So we're going to try and aim to give you around a month heads up. So soon we'll be ready to announce a release date, but not just yet. We want to avoid situations like mobile or early August, you know, those old memes. Okay, next question from the chat. Skelly Hell asks, will we ever see another Twisted League?
Well, we're definitely planning to do another league. I believe we're actually going to have a section about sort of the process of designing a league in the next Gazette, so keep your eye out for that. Another Twisted League specifically, perhaps. I think it's definitely not a bad thing to say that, hey, we could bring back something that we've done it before. Maybe the 4th or 5th league or 6th league, it was really popular. It won't be a lot of dev time because we've already done it, but I think if we did bring it back, I'd certainly want to review some of the relics and tasks and that sort of thing. I definitely want to. You can keep the same rule set, but that's only like 1/3 of what a league is, you know. So we could definitely do the same thing and just shake it up. New relics, new tasks, that sort of thing, without adding too much to it. I think that'd be a pretty cool idea.
So is that a no to Twisted League ever showing space again?
No. I think we could definitely add do a re-Twisted League. Perhaps like after some of these house reworks I know that Mod West wants to do, or maybe after there's a bit more story and quests in the area. I think it could even shake up a bit. But I think Karen and Kebos, that whole Zaya content, is a fantastic sort of self-contained area to do that in.
Cool, okay. Okay, the next question from the chat from Flav Kadan. Can we get more quests or polls about directing the game into specific areas? I want more quests. Okay, so this is something you've been had a hand in, MikeD, in terms of the annual survey. Question-wise, in terms of the game content, are you in a position to talk through what kind of questions we'll be asking players?
Well, I'm hoping that to be honest with you, I'm hoping that we can get it out in the next 2 weeks. Like, that's my goal, is to get this thing live. What? Was I not supposed to say that?
No, it's more like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, there was a couple late questions, but we wanted to get the answer to them, so we're looking for a few assets, and then this thing should go live. But I would say that there are questions in there that refer to this, but I would also say that a good chunk of the team really, really enjoys making quests, and I feel like that is something that's going to continue to happen in earnest. I mean, I've seen plenty of documentation of what could be the next X number of quests, and they're all very cool. Not that I can tell you about them. I've read them, and they're super cool, and I bet you'd love to know about it, but I can't say that. So yeah, there will be questions, and yes, you will be polled in that regard.
I think it's incredible.
Maybe in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's incredible to see the number of quests we've released in the coming years. I mean, originally it was like, Monkey Madness was the first one, right? Monkey Madness 2. And then I think last year we had like all the Zaya House quests. We had Song of the Elves. I think there was like last year we broke the record for quests. There's definitely not a shortage of passion on the team. And I think Ed's already finished every storyline in his head of where all these quests end up. You know, I said to him, "Hey Ed, I'm interested in writing a quest. Which ones have you not got booked down?" He's like, "No, I've got that one. I've got that one. I've got that. Oh, there's this little niche quest you continue the story of." And I'm like, "Okay."
Take what you can get.
Yep. Or maybe I'll make a whole new story. You know.
Oh, there you go.
I can see a couple of people saying about wilderness quests. I think we kind of have a plan to not force more people into the wilderness. So no wilderness quests anytime soon, I'll say.
Well, I think the annual survey asked about things like, would you be up for more content in the wilderness, like these types of things? So we'll see what the players think, first of all.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty safe stance we're going with that. Okay, I'm going to move on to more questions I've got on my list, and then we'll come back to some more chat questions a bit later on. A lot of these are about Darkmeyer and Hallowed Sepulchre, so Modhusky, as someone working on the project, probably going to be leaning on you quite a bit for the answers. Okay, I already covered this, kind of. So the question is, when can we expect to see it in game? We're not ready to announce that yet, but will it come at the same time as the quest itself?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be able to access the Hallowed Sepulchre immediately after the quest, and I'll be sitting there waiting with bated breath for the first completion to see and hope there's no bugs that we haven't found and that it's actually fun.
Fingers crossed.
But yeah.
Okay, in RuneScape 3, the Blood Altar is accessible after the quest that opens Darkmeyer. Could we have a Blood Altar in Darkmeyer? And if so, could we remove it from Zaya? Because obviously you have the, well, I don't know what the terminology is, but it's the different Blood Altar.
Yeah, I think the lore side is that the Blood Altar in Zaya is drawing its power from the real Blood Altar, which hasn't existed in the game. There are no plans currently to remove that. We wouldn't want to remove an entire training method or completely revamp how you get Blood Runes, and there's been no plans to add Blood Rune crafting with this Darkmeyer update, but I mean, now that we have the City of Darkmeyer, there's nothing to say that we don't do something with that content in the future as a follow-up. It just nothing planned with the current release.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Right. Since the April blog, the Gazette, presumably, we focused a lot about the Hallowed Sepulchre. Are there any changes you made since then? Since you've been able to develop more and test more? If so, what are the changes?
I think there's been a lot of like changes from things we haven't revealed to players. One of the traps I purposely didn't mention in the blog actually got an entire rework. There was actually one like notable change that hasn't been really player facing, but when you get into testing it, you realize that, say like the fire traps, there were like 4, 5, 6 different formations in a single pattern. And we had a lot of playtesting that was like, when you're looking at other things and you're trying to stop and memorize a pattern of 6, and then this one a pattern of 4, and this one you just can't cope with that, right? You want to spend time racing through before you get kicked out. You don't have the time to stop and memorize it. So we had a big change to completely like change them to like only like 2 patterns, but like so that you can actually feel like you can learn them. That was a big piece of feedback. Also, just little things like people didn't like that they got kicked out, so instead we're just closing access to the next floor when you run out of time. So if you were in the middle of trying to solve a trap, you have time to still do that. You'll still get the minimum XP for that floor because you completed it really slowly, right? But you know, you'll do that. And just like general just balancing things and scaling and feeling of it, that whole recharge energy at the end of the floor came from feedback internally, that, you know, having to take like 10 stamina potions to do one run through it was less than ideal, especially because you're going to have to take a lot of stuff for the treasure encounters as well. So yeah, there's been little things like that have changed. But I don't think there's anything concrete that we've like said to the players that has changed since the blog. Yeah. Cool,
okay. I mean, a lot of the blog was quite... There was some concrete information, but a lot of it's quite conceptual as well. So it means it's quite fluid. And we can tweak it accordingly when it comes to testing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, right, we'll wrap that question up and we'll move on. We have no QA analysts or testers on the stream right now, so I'm not sure if anyone can answer this. How do bug reports get processed? And could this process give feedback to the reporting player? I've reported bugs, but I have no idea if my report was useful or it had all the information needed for a fix.
I can answer a little bit.
Okay.
In terms of making sure your report is useful, it's quite important to have some reproduction steps. So, you know, you find a bug, don't just say that you found this bug. Tell us how you've done it. Tell us, like, you know, what were you doing beforehand and what led you to it, rather than just saying, this is broken, I can't do this now. That'd be really helpful. So yeah, try to do that if you find any bugs.
Yeah, bug reports have definitely been useful. It captures a lot of like things like your exact game state at the time, like any variables that you had. I know it's really useful, especially like say when you release like a new quest or something. You'd realize some people say, "Oh, I've reached an uncompletable state," and you're like, "Oh, really?" You know, like that. Things like we haven't had anything like that recently, but things like that are very important because the bug reports would catch that. I think giving feedback to the players, it's kind of hard. We could send something to your in-game message center, I suppose, but sometimes it's just I think it would be a very manual process to sort of say, hey, you know, we're going to send a message to every single person that it was useful or not. I think there's no way you can really automate a system like that. Not easily.
You could just keep your eye out on the news post in the others section and see if the bug gets picked up there, because normally they do get put in the news post, I think. I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. The patch notes will contain fixes. We don't often highlight people who are important to our attention. Perhaps it's something we could do. From experience, I know that some QA testers have reached out to players to, you know, ask more information. They might have been able to kind of stumble upon a bug thanks to the report, but need a little bit more information and to continue that dialogue. So, in circumstances where we do need more information and there's some evidence of repro, but we still need more information from you, then we'll reach out. Otherwise, it's pretty much thanks for your report. We'll get onto it and fix stuff if it turns out to be a bug and your report's useful.
Yeah.
I do quite like the idea of maybe calling out players who do highlight bugs in news posts and stuff. But again, it comes down to if there's a really well-known bug that week, maybe from a recent game update, and we fix it. We don't really want to have like a credit list 2,000 names long. All right. Okay. I'll move on to the next question. I wonder how the JMods would feel about perhaps designing a nice cutscene for our first time headed to Max Island and claiming a Matscape. Perhaps with a trip back to Tor Island to tell the man who helps us design our character about all we've done since we first met. For players already maxed, it could play just like the first time they head back to Mac. It seems that Mac's current chat with us is a bit underwhelming for such an accomplishment. I realise that not many of us are maxed in terms of percentage, but I think it would be cool to give a nice bit of nostalgia for the ones who do. What do you guys feel about that? I'll begin with Mod Oasis first. We'll work along the line.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I'm just trying to think of the technicalities of how we kind of track what you've done, apart from saying, oh, you've done Dragon Slayer 2. Yeah, I'd like it to be a bit more personal than that, like something to say the first quest you completed was this, or the first skill you've done was this, but I don't think we have anything capturing that. data right now. I think, yeah, I feel like we could do something grander for the whole getting your max cape.
Cool. Modhusky?
Yeah, I do agree that doing something like that would be quite nice. I think it probably wouldn't appeal to a lot of players. I know that sometimes in players in other games, like when you go into a cutscene, you're like, oh, just skip. Where's my skip button, right? You know, I wonder how it'd be interesting to see. But saying that there aren't a large percentage of max players, I think that's slowly getting to be untrue. I mean, we're over 10,000 now and climbing, so it definitely has a number of players who would, you know, gain the benefit of this perhaps. But yeah, I don't see any harm in the idea. And, you know, all for the nostalgia trip.
I think Mod Kieran matched on the weekend as well, didn't he? So big congratulations to Mod Kieran if he's watching. Okay, Mod MikeD, how do you feel about this? Or from the other games you've worked on in the past, have you done anything like major to recognise player accomplishments?
Yes, sometimes we've gone a little too far on that.
Okay.
But I think it'd be very cool. It's a nod for people really putting in the time and effort. But I've been saying that from the get-go about celebrating every level, celebrating every accomplishment that players do. How do you help them celebrate? And we've had the discussion, but you know, it always has to be tempered with the idea that this is old school and it's got to fit in the old school, you know, it's got to fit with the vibe of old school. So you can't go too over the top. It's got to fit. It's got to feel right for the game. But I do like the idea of it.
Cool. In terms of recognising accomplishments and stuff, I do quite like what RuneScape do with the kind of global broadcast. However, I do feel like it's too much at times. So if we could offer something similar that is entirely toggleable, so if you don't want your mess box spammed up with congratulations to this person and this person for getting this drop or whatever, then I'd welcome it. Otherwise, I think I'd rather steer clear. Like you said, old school is old school. Let's not spam people for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be kind of cool to have like those sort of messages, but go out to like your clan, right? I think that stuff's pretty cool. You know, because quite often people do that anyway in their clan chat, like, oh, I just reached like 92 crafting or 99 crafting, or whatever they're doing, right? You know, I think that would be pretty cool.
Okay, that's a nice shout actually. The clan only broadcast. Let's take some questions from the chat. A big thank you to whoever from the old school team is working on this doc. I can't see who you are, but I really appreciate you gathering these questions. MSU asks, when you say the first 30 minutes of Dead Man are double XP, does that then mean that it's times 20 XP because of the multiplication already in place? The answer is yes. So any XP you would gain, so in some areas it's 10%, 10 times or 15 times, that will be doubled. So when you get 10 times XP, you will get 20 times XP. So that's just for the 30 minutes you log into DMM with the protection timer accompanied with it. Okay, Duck and Cover asks, will the strange old lockpick be rechargeable?
Nope. When you get it, it's a rare to uncommon drop. It has 50 charges. When you lose your last charge, it just disintegrates. We have done our best to make sure you don't get stuck between doors at Barrows. Like you use it to get in, but you can't get out. So that sort of double set of doors, it'll use one charge to get through a double set of doors to make sure you're on a side where you're not stuck.
Cool, makes sense. Okay, Xglizit asks, are we going to see Wilderness Slayer tasks this week? Presumably more Wilderness Slayer tasks. And the person who's helping in the chat has put in big caps, yes, courtesy of ModTide. So thank you very much, ModTide, for your work if you're watching the stream. Okay, go on.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, just on that, I think the last of Poll 70 is going out tomorrow. So you should see the end of Poll 70 coming up.
Okay, so the last question I got on my sheet, let's answer that one now. So we've just about finished Poll 70, as you've alluded to. Can we expect a Poll 71 anytime soon? And what types of things could we expect to see on it?
Yes, you can expect to see it soon. And it's so far, I think there's quite a few gauntlet changes, Chamber of Zerk changes, and some miscellaneous ones as well.
Grotesque Guardians.
Yep, that's one as well.
So yeah, I think we had a bit of a PvM focus for things we'd like to do, and even some things we've seen a lot of players request, like I think like the Vespula flying version for the Cox Pet and the Enraged Tecton are all questions on there. So just nice little things that players have asked for PvM side for a while.
Okay, so hopefully we'll have that blog to players in the next few days, maybe early next week at the latest. So that kind of marries up with a question from the chat from Visor Ebon, who asks, when will we get quality of life on bosses like Grotesques, Sire, Gauntlet, Seracnus, and many others? So the answer is that Mod Melee worked a lot on Pole 71, and some of those adjustments have been picked for those questions. We'll upload to you soon. Okay, I'm going to return to the questions in the doc I've got, and then I'll go back to the chat just before we end the stream. Okay, so the next question we've got is, when you complete a page in the collection log, could the text turn green, like quests do? Like the Rooftop's agility would be green once you've got the Graceful pieces, etc. Also, if yes, could you put an overall completion percentage in the corner of a book? So when open, it'd be a cool way to compare with friends or clanmates. Any opinions on that change?
Yeah, so I think an answer we've given previously is that the reason it wasn't originally turned green when Mod Lenny worked on it is because they didn't want to have the idea of forcing people to complete the collection log and that they would feel bad, because some sections are just impossible, and I'm looking at the treasure trail sections there, right? No one's getting every piece of Third Age or Gilded. Maybe Gilded, but not Third Age. I think I'm on the fence about it. I think it comes down to I would like to see it polled. Maybe players would like it. As for a counter, it sounds like a very big job to get that going, because there's no easy way to do it. I know people say like, oh, you already have a counter on each individual page, but it's only counting that page as it needs it. That's very easy to write. We'd have to have some sort of log of all the variables that can be used for every single collection log item and checking that and adding to it every time. It's possible. I think it'd be pretty cool personally to have like a collection log high score, but I think we're obviously a bit cautious of adding a lot more stuff to the high scores now after recent issues that we had and resolved with them. So yeah, I think stuff like that'd be pretty cool. But I think as far as the colouring green, I think that's something I'd probably put to a poll.
Cool, that's a good answer, very considered. Especially the approach where we don't really want to piss off the completionists. They're probably the players who are more likely to get really stuck into the collection log. I like the high scores option, but again, let's fix the high scores properly before we start feature creeping on them. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. MikeD, you kind of touched upon this earlier. So you, not just you, but the old school team, you've been talking a lot about the early game and opening game experience, the OGE. Why is the team's focus on this, and what problems are you trying to solve?
Well, the way I look at it is what we talked about a little bit earlier about the MTX thing, right? There's going to be no MTX in this game. That's it. So if you want the game to continue to be successful, then you need more people to go into the game. That's pretty much it, because that's how the game, succeeds. That's how you get a bigger dev team that makes more stuff, is providing the people who pay for this game more value. So that's pretty much, how do we take the things that people love to do and highlight them and then show new players, hey, this is a perfect example, and I'm going to go on a rant sideways now, is housing, right? I love the housing. It's right? And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that I could go use it. I didn't know, you know what I mean? Like, I want these things, I want players to know about these things. I want new players to know about these things. And the tutorial is kind of the first place, it is the first place where you give the players the tools to succeed. And we did a lot of play testing internally. We did a lot of, right when I got on board, they'd just done this big deep dive on mobile and showed players playing what we got to watch over their shoulders they were playing and where they were having a hard time. And some of these players, I think more than 50% of the players, like, I like this game, I'd like to play, but I don't understand X and I don't understand Y. And that gave us the idea that, oh, hey, we can really focus on this and do a really good job. And the team has come up with some really great improvements to the funnel, and I think it's going to be, we're already seeing some data back that it's positive. So I think it's really going to help drive more new players into the game, barring this whole, again, pandemic thing we're living through, because that's an entirely different situation. But I think new players who are interested in the game are going to come in, and they're going to have a toolbox to be able to succeed and really enjoy all the nuance that this game has to offer.
Cool. And just to clarify, because in RS3 introduced a thing called a tool belt, which had like lots of items added. When you say toolbox, you're thinking more conceptually, metaphorically, rather than literal item.
Thank you. Please stop me from putting my foot further down my throat, because this is This is becoming a thing. Yes, no. When I mean the tools to succeed, I do not mean a hammer or anything in particular. I mean just I know now how to open. I know where to look at my attack score. You know, I want to know how powerful my character is in attack, and just in being powerful to fight monsters, knowing where to find that easily, right? Knowing instantly, oh, that's how powerful I am. I understand that it is because the leveling system doesn't work necessarily like other leveling system in other MMOs. I'm going to teach you how to use that, right? I'm going to teach you what it means, right? I'm going to teach you about prayers and ticks and all those things that you might not know coming from other MMOs and other RPGs. That's what I mean, not anything specifically.
I think it's also really interesting, right? There's a lot of information we just don't tell the players anywhere, even if you're an experienced player, right? Can anyone tell me anything in the game that tells you what your attack range is on a ranged weapon? It doesn't exist, right? There's nothing that tells you what long range does, that it gives you a tile extra, that your current bow is like 6 tiles and it would go to 7, that a blowpipe looks really good, but it has a shorter attack range, right? There's lots of just this hidden information that this isn't making it easyscape, right? This is just about making that information available to people so they can understand the game, right? You know,
and I'm saying if you want to learn, you know, again, there's nuance, right? There's nuance past the starter experience. All we're saying to do, and again, everything needs to be pulled, and we need to respect old school for what it is. I believe we've talked about it. We're focusing only on the tutorial and the very beginner game experience. Mm-hmm. That's the part I think everybody feels comfortable. Even our current players feel comfortable with us changing and making slight adjustments to. That's what we're focusing on, just making it a smoother entry into the game. And then there's still all the nuance that they'll get to learn.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, we'll move on to some questions from the chat. Visions of Chaos ask, where is my attack score? They quite like the way you phrase that, because attack score is not a thing, MikeD, and they're lambasting you in the chat.
Of course. You know what I mean. I meant my attack, defense, you know, where do I find that, right? I didn't realize at the beginning when I first started playing again, you know, just going back a few months, running around the game and knowing what monsters I had a good chance of killing and didn't have a good chance of killing me was tough. And I have a better understanding of it now because the team has explained it. And I want new players coming to the game to have an experience that's equally as easy, except they don't have access to a dev that sits behind them on another row.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Husky, probably best place to ask this. So DH Takedown asks, are we going to need to use lockpicks in the new minigame? You know, we're offering a reward of one. Do you need to use them in the minigame itself?
We don't currently have any lockpicks that you need to use. You can just search the chest, like pick locks. I think you do pick lock it, but you don't need a lockpick. It's weird. There's a lot of cases in our game like that. I believe, and I'd have to double check the code to make sure because it was Mod Flippy that worked on that. But usually with lockpicking things, we just say, hey, there's an arbitrary bonus depending on how generous the dev was to making this thing easier if you have a lockpick. It's so inconsistent everywhere. Like some devs just said it's marginally better, some said it's a lot better. But yeah, we'll probably keep that to it. So a lockpick may be useful, but it's probably only going to save you a tick or two, you know?
Cool, thanks for clarifying. The next question, probably quite a controversial one, so I'm just interested to see if anybody in the chat has any opinions on it. Listen, Forget It asks, can we remove the D-Sphere stall and the Ancient Mace spec? I think this would revive the Deep Wild for small or solo players. What do you guys think about that?
No opinion, myself.
Play it safe. Okay, I'll share my thoughts on it. I feel like to be able to pull off the specs and the piles, well, you need a lot of organization. So I almost say if a clan or a bigger team's able to do these types of things, then fair play to them. I only want it to be able to happen in multi-areas, so if you go into a multi-area, then you know you open yourself up to be attacked in this way by a large group of players who are utilizing special attacks in that way. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I kind of sit the mod Oasis. I don't really have a strong opinion on it because I'm not usually involved in PvP all that much. But I do kind of agree with if you're in multi, you sort of have the risks of being in multi. You know, it makes sense that a large group of people have a very strong chance to be able to kill you. and take your stuff. I mean, obviously it's like stalling and draining your prayer, but
cool.
Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion.
MikeD, so you've worked on games that had like a big PvP element to them. How have you on your dev teams been able to balance the whole, players don't want to die, but similarly there are lots of players who want to kill other players. Any insight you can share?
Dark Age was different. Like I said, I was addicted to PvP in that game. Again, many sleepless nights, setting your alarm clock for 2 o'clock in the morning so you could raid Midgard while they were sleeping. PvP is difficult when you have it. For us in Dark Age, it was easy. Well, not easier, because we had a frontier, and the frontier was anything in this area is PvP. You go there to PvP. But there was reasons. Now I'm talking. People that probably have never, won't remember this, but there was these things called the Finlates, and they had these camps out in the wilderness. Well, our frontier, your wilderness. And that was the absolute best place to grind for crafting mats. So we would go out there, and you had this idea like, okay, look, I'm going to go out there. There's a good chance I'm going to get killed. I think there's a balance to it. You don't want to force players to go there, but you need to encourage that kind of community. The PvP players want to, PvP, PvM players want to PvM. So I think there are things we can do. I think there are things that we can focus on. I don't really want to dig into the deep details, but I do think there's a way we can do it where it's subtle changes that will encourage players to involve themselves in it, but not force you to do it. Anyway, just stay tuned. I think that's something we can definitely tackle. And when I got here, Alec, one thing I want to give a nod to him. The guy is, again, super passionate about PvP. It's been kind of his, he's been planting a flag saying, PvP, and this is, he's got a real passion for it, and he's really been leading the charge, and we have changes and I think improvements that are coming based on that. So it is definitely on the radar.
Cool. Lots of people in the chat asking who Alec is. I'm going to doctor myself. That's me. I'm Alec. What's swing, everybody?
Crap.
That's cool, man. Don't worry. I got lucky.
No one knows who you are?
No, I've been very lucky. I've been on the old school team for 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years now, and I haven't had my name leaked. And I don't know how, because Mod Wolf used to be the absolute worst person for leaking names, but somehow I managed to escape 3 years. I called it a success.
Look, okay, so I ruined it for you, but I have to say, I have to call this out. You have to tell me, in 3 years, everyone has access to Google and the internet. They couldn't find you? Like, you're like some kind of ghost?
Yeah, man, goes to the system.
All right, my bad.
No, it's honestly, it's cool. I'm surprised it hasn't been sooner.
I'm sorry, Aloysius. My friend here, Aloysius.
Alright, we'll move on to the next question. So Hannah Roberts, another question, this is really nice. As a student nurse working in the NHS, thank you so much for membership. So that's related to the charity initiative we did earlier, like the Care for Carers, the Game for Carers, NHS and UK collaboration. I've seen lots of people ask whether we can give more membership codes away. I don't know, I'd like to. I think we've kind of passed on the information that a lot of the codes have already been taken up, so can we provide more? If so, we'll share information soon. It'd be good to support the NHS workers as best we can.
Can we just get like a heart spam in the
on.
chat for all the Can we just get a heart spam in the chat for all the NHS workers doing their best to keep everyone safe right now, because they don't get credit.
It's not just keeping them safe; it's keeping them alive. Like I said, it's great. It's a crazy time, and hats off.
There you go.
So I've actually seen a few questions why we're only supporting the NHS and not healthcare workers in other countries, or even key workers, because lots of people, obviously, even like people working in supermarkets, helping to stock our shelves and make sure we're feeding ourselves at home. The honest answer is we're buying into a wider initiative that's led by UK, and so they're a kind of a UK games industry board. So we're part of the wider initiatives, and what it means is that all we have to do is basically give them membership codes to use, and then they have the infrastructure to kind of distribute them to NHS workers. I don't really see us as an old school team or Jagex as a studio being in a position where we can say, hey, you know what, anybody who's a key worker in any country, send us proof and then we'll give you stuff. I'd love to be able to do that, but I don't think we've got the kind of the resource to be able to manually vet all key workers and that kind of stuff. So what I can say is thank you very much to all key workers for all the great work you do. I hope you stay safe. I hope your families stay safe. If we can contribute to more initiatives around the globe, I'd love that. Make us aware of them, and then we can kind of pass that on to other people in the studio. And perhaps we can look at helping other key workers with membership, that kind of stuff. Okay, next question from the chat. About 5 minutes left. OG asks, could we enhance the way that bank placeholders work? The current situation requires you to own the item and then remove it before it acts as a placeholder. Wouldn't it be cooler to add future items to your bank that acts as a placeholder? Almost like, I guess it'd be a bit of an aspirational target. You know, I want to save up for a TiVo. Could I add a placeholder in place? Just kind of sit there and wait till I get it.
That would be cool. I'm not sure how it would work with the current infrastructure. I feel like it could be possible.
I've never tried adding a placeholder item to a bank through script, so I don't know what it does. I don't know if it works. I don't know if we need engine work for it. I think it's kind of like, there's two sides to it, right? There's the people who say, I want to have this in my item as like maybe like a thing in the tabs, to like an icon. I know that other third-party clients do stuff like that. There are people who want to say, I want to own it, but there's also people who are like to have it as a history of items they have actually earned themselves. And obviously all the really funny, like, 0 of every item, I just lost it all in the jewel arena sort of pictures would lose their meaning, I suppose. But I don't know. It sounds interesting. I'm curious to know if it works more than anything.
Whoever's updating our chat questions just said it probably will work, no engine needed, if people wanted it.
Okay, cool. So perhaps one for a future poll. That's typing to us in real time, so we're kind of waiting for the next character to unfold there.
Yep.
Say lol.
Say lol.
Okay, I'm going to move back to the doc. So I took a lot of chat questions. I'm going to go back to the doc we prepared. Just as a future note, I didn't announce this at the start as well. If you use the chat command, !questions, you'll be taken to a form where you can send questions to us directly. That's what we're pulling from for the Q&A. Send us any questions and then we'll ask them next week. Alternatively, at OSRS, and we'll take some questions from the chat. Okay, next question. Could we receive a timer and a personal best noted for Skotizo, similar to what's present at many other bosses and activities? Obviously, this couldn't be retroactive. I'm glad to see players are learning that. But it'd be nice to see even if people just want to track their average kill times.
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not? Okay, I like that answer. So, future poll, perhaps?
Future poll. Write it down.
Okay, could we remove the empty option from potions, or at least allow a toggle to remove it?
I don't think we could do a toggle, just off the top of my head without... No, I just don't think it's possible.
We could probably write code that makes the empty option do nothing if you toggled it to do nothing but not remove the op. So you'd be right-clicking empty and nothing would happen. Apart from people need to learn to click. There is a decant option for the decanter in the Grand Exchange, so you don't have to manually decant them all and accidentally empty potions. We could definitely potentially do something like that, but I think that'd be very weird, because then you'd need to have some sort of feedback, right? You know, if you clicked it empty and it didn't work, you might go, hang on, and you forgot you toggled it on, right? You know, you'd almost need like a message box come up, and at that point I wonder if the message box is just disruptive, but maybe you'd rather that than empty your whole potion, so... Yeah.
I like the toggle that does nothing approach. Maybe it's like, I'm going to toggle having doubt. I want to be able to doubt myself on an empty potion.
Can we put the toggle on with a message box that just insults the player for like, whoops, you maybe don't want to do that, or you know, that would be stupid.
Right, we're going to just going to wrap up now. Coming to the end of the stream, I'll run through the next few questions. Could you make the Graceful outfit darker? Presumably, this is related to Dark Graceful rather than all Graceful outfits. Do you have any? So, when we showed off Dark Graceful, some of the players said it's not dark enough. Did we make any changes accordingly, or do we plan to?
It hasn't been changed since it was revealed at RuneFest, but the picture at RuneFest was taken on brightness setting level 2, which is what we standardize all our brightness, like calibration to. Like when we compare how dark something is to something else, we all do it on that setting. but a lot of players play it on brightness setting 4, so I see a lot of players saying, well, I want it to be that dark on my brightness setting, right? But then what would that look like to people who actually do play on the lower darkness settings? Would it be just you can't see your character because it's too dark? I think it's just something that ultimately we're happy with it currently, and we'd have to wait for player feedback once they've got their hands on it, right? And they can play around with their brightness settings themselves, you know? And I'm sure if we do see overwhelming player feedback post-release that, hey, this needs to be darker, we can make that change in following weeks. But I don't think we have any plans to change it before launch.
Cool, makes sense to me. Okay, the last question I'm going to take from the doc is, when can we expect to see the May Gielinor Gazette and what will be on it? So typically, we're aiming to publish them around like the second Wednesday of every month to give us time to kind of write content, to react to any ongoings in the community. And then also, Wednesday is helpful because we can talk about it on a live stream. If I quickly remind myself of the type of stuff we want to talk about, we want to talk about leagues, the design process, and kind of maybe some of the designs that we haven't chosen to go with. Because that's what earlier you spoke, Modhusky, about the fact that we've gone on big offsites talking about leagues, and ultimately, some of the things we've only chosen one idea to proceed with, and lots of the other ones we've either binned or banked. So we'll talk about that. There'll be a big update on the death mechanics and when they're going to come out and how they're going to work. We've seen lots of feedback that as the team's growing, and MikeD said earlier, the old school team's going to continue to grow. People don't really know who we are anymore. Like people are used to seeing the likes of Ash and Kieran on the screens, and we're all relatively new, pretty still. So we want to talk about who the new mods are, who the teams are, what the leadership structure looks like. So I know there have been a lot of questions about who's in charge of making decisions, that kind of stuff. That's largely it, I think, the main articles. Maybe there's some more things to pop up. So expect that hopefully the second Wednesday of May, those kind of questions and articles. I'm going to ask one more question to finish. I've got Big Cap's answer here. I think it's Ash answering in the sheet, I'm not too sure. When are the new death mechanics coming? So the answer I've been given is the answer is not during the Deadman event or DMM event. That's because we don't want to introduce like a new way of dying during a big tournament like that. But hopefully it will clear testing soon after. And naturally, something as substantial as death changes and dying needs a lot of testing. Actually, one more question has been added to my sheet from Sharky B, who says, who asks these stupid questions? And the answer is, it's you guys. So keep them coming. Cool. I think that brings us just about to the end of the stream. Anybody want to say anything else before we finish up? If not, I'll go through the final announcements again.
I feel terrible, man. I still feel terrible about this. I didn't realize there was a, I didn't realize this was your Clark Kent outfit. And, my bad.
It's okay. We'll just be very careful not to leak your name.
What are you talking about? It's in I know. Why do you guys do this?
Yep.
Just a question coming in actually. Sorry, MikeD, do you have any plans of going on Twitter? Like we're all available on Twitter for players to use and abuse us. Do you tend to make a Twitter account anytime soon?
Yeah, I have one. How about this? Let me confer with these yahoos, and then I'll let you. I want to make it right now, and then be like, "Oh my God, what did you do?" So, mod scene out later.
How have you enjoyed your first stream, anyway, Mike?
No, I think it was great. Like I said, it's it's a long time coming. I've been just trying to get my head wrapped around everything, and there's there's a storied history to this game that I want to help support and continue it. Like you said, Sween, old school is old school. It is what it is for a reason, and we want to make sure it stays that way.
I just want to point out that on Slack earlier, I joked and said that you'll be the players like sweary American dad. Somebody in the chat just said, Mod MikeD is like the dad I never had. So there you go. That's who you are.
I have bit my tongue several times, so I just wanted to drop the F-bomb and just stop myself. So we'll get there.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up with some announcements. So Jagex has been sold to a new parent company. We obviously haven't answered any questions about the topic, and we won't be. Do we have any news to share? We'll share it on the old school website. We'll share it at jagex.com. You can read the statement we published with the chat command !Jagex News. DMM, and this is really exciting, is going live on Friday. That's 1 p.m. BST. Like I said earlier, Google a time zone converter if you need to find out what time that is in your local time. We've made some amendments to the blog, so do read that. You can find that with the chat command !DMM. Some really fun stuff in there, like uniques from Chambers of Xeric, 4 times more likely. We've made clue scrolls much easier to complete. We've kind of clarified some more things about access to Barrow's gloves from the beginning of the game. So DMM 1 p.m. Friday. And yep, today is the level up charity. So that ends at 11:59 p.m. So for every 150 levels that you guys gain, we'll be donating £1 to charity. You can monitor the progress of that on the account management tab in game. I'm not quite sure where we're at. Anybody know? Anybody playing right now? Can you tell me?
I'm looking right now. 17.
Not right now.
17.
What was that, sir? Oh, sweet, awesome.
9.
So, can you guys make it to the? Is it 34,500? Is that the limit? Can you guys make it there to the end of the day?
I don't know, man.
So you guys better be leveling up.
We're getting into prime time now. This is like around the busiest time, the next few hours. So I reckon they can do it.
Is it every time prime time now? Like, isn't it like roll out of bed in prime time to play video games?
I wonder if the price of any items have skyrocketed because of this. That would be quite an interesting side effect.
People
buying
doing
level for charity.
Stuff, like logs or maybe fetching some arrows or bolts or something. Okay, cool. Let's wrap it up. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you MikeD for joining us for the stream, Mod Husky and Mod Oasis. Thanks to Mod Ash for helping grab the questions, and a big thank you to Mod Spear for running the stream and giving the players a remote live stream. Take it easy, everybody.